Hi, everybody. Welcome again to UnAnchored Boston with Bob Lobel. I'm Mike Lynch. Happy mid-January as we move forward to the NFL playoffs, the College Football National Championship game, and a whole lot more. As always, they're brought to you by Cold Springs RV, all things RV. We'll be telling you more about them in just a moment. And by George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. The big wheel, we call him. All right, we got a big wheel here right now. He has to be happy because the Patriots have a new coach. He's a defensive guy, and Ohio State is playing the national championship. So, Bob Lobel, now, first of all, I want to make one thing clear to both of you. I'm not going to sit through a show where everything is Ohio.
Well, yes, you are. Oh, you are. Get ready for it.
All right, I'm gone.
I'll see you later. I'm done.
Take it away, Lobie.
All right, Lynchy. You know, we're not going to talk about the Crimson of Harvard. I can, don't give me this hand thing.
All right, just check one thing. 1920.
What do you mean one thing?
We won the Rose Bowl in 1920. We beat Oregon. Okay?
Yeah, that was back when the world was flat.
Yeah, well, they only had about 25 people in Oregon back then.
And the football was stuffed.
Yeah. I just have to say, I don't know who's going to tune into anything like this with three has-beens on, but we'll see what happens.
We take our chances every week, Tim. I can tell you that. Tim Fox, great player for the Patriots, great player for Ohio State, great player from Glenwood High School in Canton, Ohio. Canton, Ohio. The guy was born in Canton, Ohio. Okay, Mike? Born there, NFL Hall of Fame. 4 Rose Bowls. The guy played in 4 Rose Bowls, won every one of them. Okay. What else?
Not necessarily true, but that's why I did play in 4 of them.
Oh, you didn't win every one of them?
I started in 4 of them, and actually, I'm the only. Archie Griffin and myself, the only 2 that have ever started 4 consecutive Rose Bowls. So,
Archie Griffin, the only guy that ever won 2 Heisman's.
Correct.
To back.
Yeah.
And you and Archie were co-captains when you were seniors at Ohio State.
That is correct. Yep.
So what a fortuitous time for 3 has-beens to get together. And Mike, you're more than happy. We're more than happy to have you join the party because of who you are and what you bring to the table. Timmy and I would both agree. Timmy's a Buckeye. They play for the national championship against very popular Notre Dame. They happen to be 8.5-point favorites. Ohio State does. We'll talk about them, okay, Lynchy, and we'll talk about Mike Vrabel, who was born in Akron, Ohio. Born in Akron, which, of course, when I went to Kent, Canton was just to the right, and Akron was to the left. Okay.
Well, you were a small guard at Kent, weren't you?
Well, I didn't play at Kent. I played at Waynedale High School. You weren't on their schedule, but the Massillon sophomores were. Okay. The Massillon sophomores. So that Massillon Canton, I don't know what the relationship was there, but it couldn't have been good because these were 2 big time rivals. What do you want to talk about first, Lynchy? You want to talk about the Vrabel, Ohio State, Akron connection, the defensive connection, the Patriot connection, or the Ohio State Michigan connection, or the Ohio State?
Here's what I want to talk about. The hat that I have on. I mean,
I saw it.
Yeah, good. I love it.
So I'm sitting in the dentist chair on Monday. My dentist went to Michigan, and he's got a real dilemma because they obviously dislike Notre Dame, and they loathe the school down south, which they never mentioned by name. So he doesn't know what to do. Should he root for the school down south because you want the Big Ten to win the national championship, or do you just root against it because everything is anti-Ohio State if you went to any other school around there?
I'm guessing he's probably not Catholic, so I think he should vote for the heathens.
Fiorello is his name. So, yeah, he is Catholic.
Oh, okay. Well, then, well, he probably couldn't get into Notre Dame, even though he's a dentist. If he's your dentist, I don't know.
All right. Let me go right back to that, since Lynchy brought up the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry and the last game that they played, which probably did Ohio State the biggest favor that they could have done, the way that game went. Ohio State's been a different team after that Michigan game. They were a different team before the Michigan game. But Michigan just seemed to propel them. Well, they could have gone either way, I guess, Foxy. Either way, they could have gone. And they decided.
Considering they scored a touchdown at the end of the game, and that wasn't the Michigan game. That was the Oregon game. I'm sorry. But I'll tell you, the national championship is great. But to be perfectly honest with you, if you're playing at Ohio State, it's secondary to beating Michigan. So it's going to be a great success, I guess, if you win the national championship. But it's always going to be an asterisk next to it because they lost the Michigan game.
What did you think about that game? What did you think about the way it ended and the planting of the flag and all that has now been forgotten, except if you're from Michigan?
Well, all I can say is if they tried to plant the flag on us, Woody would have been the first one out there tearing it down. So that would not have flown with us. As a matter of fact, we had a great story when we were playing Michigan one time. I don't remember which year it was, but Woody gets so psyched up, for the pregame talk. And
we're talking about Woody Hayes here. That's just
Woody Hayes,
to you. But let's go ahead.
My former coach, and so we're getting ready to play Michigan, and most coaches would, you'd be going over your first series on offense, you'd be going over what you're going to do defensively, special teams, all that kind of stuff. All Woody was concerned about in that pregame talk was, in the past, both teams come out the same tunnel. And in the past, there'd been some pushing and shoving in the tunnel if they both go out together. So Woody was so fired up. All he wanted to do was give us a pregame talk about how we were going to kick ass in the tunnel. And we're going to kick their ass right in the tunnel. And then we got running out into the tunnel, and they weren't there. So now we're going, oh my God, we're so fired up. But we went out early because he got us so fired up, and that's why they weren't in the tunnel. But the Michigan band was on the field, and they had the Michigan banner up. So you can look it up and Google it online. We came screaming out of the tunnel. We tore down the flag, knocked over the tuba player, a couple of trombone players, broke a bass drum, and then all hell broke loose.
Wow. So the other night, the other game was not unprecedented. The planting of the flag was not unprecedented.
Oh, no. You don't do that. Not in our stadium. Absolutely not.
Baker Mayfield did that one time, remember?
Well, his success has been dubious at best anyway, so that's what he deserves.
I brought this up last time. My roommate in college he's from Warren, Ohio, and the Niles and Harding, they're two high schools, I think.
Big high school football, yeah.
Yeah, so he played there. His older brother played for Woody at Ohio State. I think he played just when you got. His name was Fred Pisanelli, but he said that they were flying for the Rose Bowl, and about 2 hours outside of Pasadena, they had all the trainers come out and start taping ankles on the plane, and that they stayed in a monastery the night before or the whole week. Is that true?
That is true. Just the night before for us. But and to be honest with you, it was not a good idea because it was up in the hills someplace, probably now where they're having the wildfires. But we're in this monastery in these single beds, and some of them are bunk beds, and it was just horrible. But then, we got about half the team are guys from the inner city. So we go to their meeting, we go to get in bed, and we hear these coyotes howling from the hills. And, our Afro-American players were scared shitless. I'm telling you, they thought they were werewolves nobody slept.
That's Woody.
That was Woody.
I love talking about Woody Hayes because it was so unique and such a big part of the whole, not the culture of the university, the culture of the state. Woody Hayes, his reach went far beyond the campus of Ohio State. But Tim, when you talk about like Ryan Day and the culture at Ohio State, and then they talk about the culture of the Patriots, Woody really created a whole separate culture in college football. Now, I'm not saying he was the first, but he probably was the best at that.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, it was quite the experience. And most people think that, it was all about football, and obviously, Woody was all about football. But, if he put somebody on scholarship, he was absolutely adamant about making sure guys graduated from college. I mean, he was in it, and we were on the quarters system back then, and every quarter he would review everybody's report cards. Everything, it would go to him before we even got it. And if you got the call from Woody before you got your report card, you knew you were in the shit. I'm telling you. And, one of the biggest waste of times of all time, and frankly, I never had to do it. But if he thought you were doing particularly poor in a certain subject, he'd make you come to his office and bring your textbook. All right, and then you'd sit across from the table here. All right, goddamn it, where's the book? Where's the book? All right, what page? What chapter are you on? And he would read. He would read to you out loud. Now, and then go back over it. Now you got that. You got that. You got that. Now I expect you to. Goddamn it, I expect you to pass the next test. So, it was interesting to say the least.
So, well, go ahead, Lynch. Yeah, he created a culture there, but not only that. Until he whacked the guy from Clemson, he created.
That guy deserved it.
Intercepted the pass.
No, that's right. That was Woody's fourth option on any play was a pass. He hated throwing the football. Absolutely hated throwing the football. And now he finds that, we're trying to win the national championship, and somebody from the press box calls a pass, and oh my God, the guy intercepts it. But then, what gets overlooked, and I think you can still find it on, YouTube or whatever, but he runs up the sideline. He gets tackled out of bounds on our sideline. And Woody is in his box, and there's that certain area where the only coaches are supposed to be standing, and the referees will occasionally say, no, you got to move back. It's only for coaches and everything. But Woody would take care of that in his own hands. I mean, nobody stepped in that unless he invited you into that box. Well, here comes this guy. We're getting ready to win the game, and we throw a pass for some unknown reason. And it gets intercepted, and now we're going to lose the game. And then to make matters worse, the guy gets tackled in his box, and Woody gets knocked down in the scrum. And so Woody and the guy both get up, they're face to face, and the kid takes the football and puts it right in Woody's face, and he's going. That was all it took. Woody gave me and he claimed he was just trying to knock the ball out of his hand, but I think he was putting the yoke on him pretty good. But actually, I think he said he hit him with his left arm for some reason. He says, if I wanted to hurt him, I'd have hit him with my right.
How do you think he could have handled the NIL, all this?
Yeah. Oh, he'd be so dead set against NIL and getting paid. Oh my God. I mean, he was such an adamant guy about, your scholarship is more than what you're worth, as a football player. So, and that's, he felt that if he didn't give you a college degree, that, he had cheated you. And so he was going to make sure that he graduated, and he did. He had the highest graduation rate in big time football.
That's great. That's really interesting. I think
Did Woody come to your house when you were being recruited?
There we go.
Here we go. They're playing Clemson. Ohio State's in white.
Yeah, and Woody's in red. I guess he did hit him with his right. Yeah, there he is. Well, he shouldn't have put the ball in his face. That's all I can say. Now I forget what you asked me.
Did Woody come to your house when you were being recruited?
You know, Woody famously would brag about that. However, he did not come to my house. We had my freshman class had the winningest percentage in Ohio State history over 4 years. And we only had, I think it was 17 guys on scholarship, and they only had 17 to give. So I found out after I was there that I was 17th, and he didn't recruit me. But there was a gentleman from Canton, Ohio, who always claimed to be good friends with Woody, and he was a big high school supporter of our school, and I actually worked for him for a while. He owned a Terminex exterminating company, and if you think you're getting a cushy job because you're going to go to Ohio State, there's no job more disgusting unless you're cleaning out outhouses than being a Terminex exterminator. So he actually called Woody and said, "I think this kid could play for you," and Woody said, "Well, if you think, we'll give it a shot." So he never. He did. When I went down for my visit, he asked for my parents to come with me on the visit, and they put him up in a hotel, and so he got to meet him then, but he never came to my house.
Oh, Terminex, who knew, right?
Yeah.
How do you think Ryan Day compares to Woody Hayes, Tim? I mean, maybe you probably don't know the guy. Maybe you do. I don't know. But
actually, I know Ryan. I mean, not well. I wouldn't call him a friend or anything, but he actually recruited my son Chris to go to Boston College, and he was the freshman coach, or I don't know whether he was the freshman or the wide receiver coach or DB coach, but anyway, he was Chris's coach at Boston College, and he really liked Chris. Although Chris had his own injury problems and got hurt and got he broke a collarbone, and he ended up having a decent career. But I think Ryan left after his freshman year, but that's when I first met him, and then I met him, and then I actually took my nephew on a recruiting visit to Ohio State. I had two nephews that played college football. The first one, the older one, went to Penn State and played at Penn State on scholarship, and I did not get as actively involved as I should have to get him to go to Ohio State. So when Dustin came around, I actually flew home and took him down and took him on the visit to Ohio State, and I think Ryan Day was an assistant coach then. But.
Lynch, tell me, did you know Ryan Day was at BC? I did not know that. That is, I'm shocked to hear that. I mean,
yeah. Now my I've been hitting the head a lot. My mind's a little foggy, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
That's right.
Yes, Spaz was the head coach, right?
That's right, Spaziano. Yeah. My wife I keep telling things to my wife that I've done, and she goes, "You never did that."
Well, I tell you what, that's a hit. To know that Ryan Day was a coach at BC is new to me. That got my attention.
You want me to look it up for you?
No, I believe you. I'll look it up after you're done, but it doesn't matter then. That's pretty cool. But so is Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien was a
That's
good,
right.
Good.
Well, that was probably the worst thing that happened to my son at BC, in that I think he had either 3 or 4 coaches in 5 years.
That was really it was amazing.
They just kept bringing a new coach, and every time a new coach comes in, well, he wants his recruits. He's going to work with the guys that are there, but he's going to go out and try to bring his own players in. And when he brings his own players in, it's hard to, it's hard to overrule him on that.
Chris, did the furor over losing to Michigan and people calling for Ryan Day's job, was that over the top, or was that to be expected?
Oh, that is expected. I mean, that is. To be honest with you, I didn't think there was enough. That was just it was a horrible game plan. They looked so ill prepared, and when when I was there, every Monday after a Saturday game, you had Sunday off. Every Monday you would practice in shirts and shorts. You didn't wear full pads. But every Monday was devoted to Michigan. We practiced against Michigan. Whatever Michigan did that week, we prepared for it. Whatever they did the next week, and the next week on Monday, we prepared for it. So we practiced against Michigan, 10 times during the season, and then obviously during the week before, every day.
Wow. That is unbelievable. I mean, the whole season comes down to one game. It's sort of like, Harvard, we're the same way with Yale.
Oh, here we go. I mean, come on. There's same way, right?
Yeah.
So let me tell you this one. So back to my college roommate, whose brother played at Ohio State, he had children late in life. His son right now is in the Ohio State band.
Oh, boy.
And at the Cotton Bowl against Texas, he dotted the I.
That is an impressive thing that you'll remember for the rest of your life. I mean, that's
pretty good.
I mean, that is a big deal at Ohio State.
Yep.
And then you tip your hat.
Tip your hat. Tip it to one side, then you pivot, do it the other side. He's got a big tuba wrapped around him, and so he's playing music. He's high fiving the guy behind him.
It's a sousaphone, damn it! A sousaphone. It's not a tuba.
Oh, sorry, sousaphone. Okay,
Yeah.
Sousaphone.
Because I played it.
He did it during the Nebraska game during the regular season and the Texas game the other night. And I asked him, I said, what's it like being in the band? He says, you have no idea. They practice like 6 days a week, like hours a day. It's beyond belief.
Well, they used to all be on full scholarships. I mean, they were on the same, when I was there, they were on the same scholarships as the football players were. They had room, board, books, and tuition.
Really?
They stayed in the stadium. There's actually a dormitory in the stadium, so they stayed there so they could go and practice in the field every day.
Wow,
that's unbelievable.
The best damn band in the land is what he would say.
It is.
Mike didn't even know that Harvard had a library.
Because he never went in it.
No, that's right. He never, he didn't know where. You're right. The library. All right, what do you think?
Did you go to Harvard?
What'd you say?
Did you get recruited to go to Harvard, or did you?
I did. Yes, I did.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
How about that? That's pretty impressive.
In Indiana, we could have been playing against each other.
Yeah, I almost went to Indiana. They were, they had offered me right off the bat, and who was the coach there? John Pont.
John Pont
was the coach, and he, for like 3 weeks or so, he was the only school that had ever offered me. And then Kent State offered me, Toledo offered me, Ohio University offered me, and who else? Somebody out west. But hey, I said, okay, great. I went and visited, like 4 or 5 different colleges. That was a ball, man, getting recruited.
Yeah. But then Terminix stepped in.
Yeah, I don't think they recruit like they used to back when I was getting recruited.
Anybody care who recruited me? Does anybody even care? Ashland College.
Ashland, yeah.
Ashland. That was it.
Used to drive through Ashland on the way to.
No, I wasn't a drive-through. Well, I visited.
Yeah, you still have those good Ohio roots.
I sure do. You know what? That's all right. Can't shake them. Well, what do you think is going to happen Monday night? I know you say beating Michigan was more important than the national championship, but playing Notre Dame, you're 8.5-point favorites. Is this a lock?
I know it's never a lock. No, I mean, I think they're obviously a more talented team, and so does, obviously the odds makers think that too. But when you get in a game like that with everything on the line, you don't play like you do in a normal game. And that was always our problem when we played Michigan. We always just for some reason played differently, much more conservatively. And I think you saw that, when Ohio State played Michigan this year, they were too damn conservative, and then they were conservative early in the game, to get to the championship, and then they opened it up, and then all hell broke loose. So I hope they come out gunning and start throwing the ball. You don't. I don't want to see him run to set up the pass. I want to see him pass to set up the run.
That's they got some pretty talented receivers. The whole, when they're on, that guy Sawyer was a pretty good player too. I mean, now all of a sudden, I feel guilty that I start to know the names of these kids that are playing in college. But I guess if they're on TV enough, you do. It'll be interesting to see how come you're not going to the game? It's in Atlanta. You're only in Marco Island. Why don't you just drive up a couple? Why can't you go to Atlanta to go to the game?
I believe me, I thought long and hard on it, and I don't know. I wanted to get down here, and then I just drove through Atlanta, and then so it's about a 12-hour drive from here, from Marco, and I reached out to see if I could get some tickets. I never heard back, but I mean, I think if I would have persisted, I probably could have got a couple. But you know what? I got a lot of, in Marco, there's a huge Ohio presence in Marco Island, and I guess it's because 75 used to come down from Ohio. A lot of people came to Ohio, to Florida for spring break and all that stuff. And so, I mean, there are about 3 bars on restaurant bars on Marco Island alone, which is not a big island, that are huge Ohio State bars. And so they'll just be packed for this game, and there'll be banners and people dressed up and wearing helmets and flags and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm going to probably put on an old jersey and go to one of them.
That's a boy. Of course.
I don't think I still. I don't have a helmet down here.
I'm up in Naples, Tim. So the first I get out of the car when we got here on Tuesday. The first person I saw had a red T-shirt with a big O and a black hat like you have on. First person I saw, I said, "Go Buckeyes!" And he goes, "Woo-hoo! Go Buckeyes!" First person I saw.
Yeah, the response is "Go Bucks!" Yeah, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
So what's your favorite restaurant in Naples?
I go to Jake Callahan's.
Never been there.
Yeah, it's up by Vanderbilt Beach Road. I go to Brick Tops.
Right next to the Harvard Library.
Yeah. What was the other one?
Brick Tops.
I've never been there either. I'm
I
south of
don't-
Naples.
I used to venture downtown Fifth Avenue a lot.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like driving back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we go to Naples, when people come in and they say, "Oh, I want to go to Naples." Oh, okay, we'll go to Naples. But if it's up to my wife and I, we're staying on Marco. There's probably 30 restaurants on Marco, and that's plenty for me.
Yeah, Snooks is the most favorite one.
You snuck in. Absolutely. I had a chance to buy that, and I didn't.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. $4.5 million.
I'd have come and worked for you down there.
$4.5 million for that, and it included, and it's right on the water. Included all the slips and the whole thing, and if you tore the restaurant down, the property is worth $4.5.
It's unbelievable. Well, that's beside the point. Okay, we're not doing Phantom Gourmet here.
Yeah. My wife didn't exactly want me, hanging around in a restaurant anyway. So.
I know. I understand. I don't blame her. Do you think Ryan Day? You think he's acquitted himself now after Michigan?
If he loses this game,
no. I know what's going to happen if he loses this game. I get that.
If he wins this game, he'll get another 2 years at least. If he loses this game, he's got a year at best. And if he doesn't win the Big Ten next year. He's gone, guaranteed.
That's unbelievable. What's his record? 47-2 against everybody but Michigan. Something like that.
What's that have to do with it? You got to win the conference, If you don't beat Michigan, you don't win the conference.
Yeah. Just think if they didn't have this 12-team playoff, they might not even be in the playoffs at all.
You're right, absolutely right. I don't think they'd have been in, and but they've acquitted themselves well, and I just hope that I've got a few friends going to the game, so I hope that it turns out good for them. And I gave them some fertilizer. They're going to go put some fertilizer on my tree out in Buckeye Grove. You've heard about that, right?
No. What do you buy a tree?
No, at the open end of the stadium.
Yeah.
There's an area. There's a big arch that you walk through.
Yeah.
If you ever go to Ohio Stadium, you got to go do that. And they call it Buckeye Grove. And anyone who was a unanimous All-American, they plant a Buckeye tree for you, and they put a plaque underneath the tree. And they give you your years, your number, and the year you're an All-American. So I always give people a hard time, tell them to get out there and try to bring home. It's a Buckeye tree, so it actually produces Buckeyes. So people send me them all the time, believe it or not.
What is it? What is
it? Maybe Lynchy doesn't know what a Buckeye is because
what is a Buckeye?
See, that's just it. You get this all the time. If you're from Ohio, people say, "What's a Buckeye?"
You went to Harvard.
What's a Buckeye? Is it a little chestnut?
It's a nut it's brown with a white spot on it.
It's a Buckeye.
The Buckeye. Look at the guy that's running around with the big thing on his head during the game. That's a Buckeye.
The thing Lee Corso puts on his head on game day?
No. Yes. That's a Buckeye. It's a little oversized, but
okay.
All right, I got to do this camper showcase thing. Or not a showcase, but Cold Springs RV. It's all about this. We've done this before, Tim, but I got to talk a little bit about camping. If you're going to make a camping trip to come down to Atlanta to see the championship game, this is the time to leave. You don't want to wait too much longer.
Better hurry.
You better hurry, right? Campers. But the great thing about camping is you can just do it at your own pace. After the Boston Camping Show, which is this weekend, the Boston Camping and RV Expo, Cold Springs RV will be having an after show. So this is going to be a great show this weekend, but it's the after show at Cold Springs RV that you're going to want to pay attention to. January 24th through the 26th, after the inauguration, after the championship game, after whatever else is happening on Monday. What'd you say was happening on Monday, Mike?
Martin Luther King Day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Of course. So after all those things happen on Monday, they will have the same show specials for the Boston RV Super Show. So go see the latest in travel trailers, fifth wheelers, motorhomes, pop-ups, and more. Go browse inside of the showroom and tell them again that Lobel and Lynchy sent you, and all the Buckeyes that might show. Shop now for the best selection for 2025. Cold Springs RV, Route 114 in Ware, New Hampshire. Ware, it's just west of Goffstown, north of Tingsboro. That's where we're talking about. Mike, your comment to Tim.
All right, Tim.
I just want to say that camping is the best family vacation you could ever take. We used to camp all the time, man. I loved it.
You're the second guy.
Well,
what's that?
Where'd you go?
All over Ohio. Oh, man. One of the best places you can ever camp in your life is at Cedar Point. Number one, it's the best amusement park in the country. When we went to the Rose Bowl, we'd always go to Disneyland and have the day to ourselves up there. It didn't compare to Cedar Point, but we used to
on Lake Erie, Mike. It's up near Toledo. It's up on Lake Erie.
Best amusement, and you have a campground up there that's it's like being at the Ritz. It's really nice. And we used to have a trailer in my backyard when I was in high school. I'm just looking to see if my wife's still here, but man.
After all these years, it probably still is.
Well, my dad used to park it at the top of the hill behind our house, and he forgot to lock it. So, that was like perfect for she and me. In high school, what more could you ask for?
Absolutely. You were everybody's best friend.
Yeah. So yeah, we had that, and then my an old Patriot, former Patriot friend of mine who comes to Marco, actually should be down here in a couple of weeks. Billy Johnson played for the Patriots a long time ago. For years, he had these big motor homes, and we would drive that motor home down here every year. And great trip. I love camping. So I'm gonna tell you, if I ever get up that way, I'm going to come see your sponsor there.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. But first of all, the last time I saw Billy Johnson was at Davio's in Foxborough, and he gave me a wedgie. He just went behind me. That's him, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me a wedgie. Like, I swear my underwear was up to the back of my neck. I was singing soprano. I said, "Get that shit, will you?"
Well, Billy wouldn't do it today. He's
he's incapacitated a little bit.
A little bit. He's got a few challenges. It's just it's something we all face. I mean, I'm 11 years younger than him, and I'm thinking back when he was my age. He was. I'm probably worse than he was. So I look at him and say, "Oh boy, that's what I got ahead of me for all my hits in the head." But we'll see how that turns out.
Okay, so here's the deal. You just drove all the way down to Marco. We're going to let you rest for a little bit. But when you're maybe after the Super Bowl or something like that, we're going to give you the Lobel Lynch Cruiser. It's yours for a week. You can drive from Marco to the West Coast. We'll fly you back. The only problem is you have to bring somebody to ride shotgun. And it has to be somebody that played either for Michigan or who played against you in the NFL. Somebody you'd like to have a conversation with driving across country. Who would that be?
I'd probably get Doug Plank.
Really?
Played for the Bears. Yeah. I played with him at Ohio State, but I played against him at when he was at Chicago too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so why?
What's that?
Why?
Why would I get him?
Yeah.
Because he's a good friend, and we'd have a good time.
Okay.
His wife is friends with my wife, and he's probably tuning in right now.
Yeah. You kicked the shit out of Michigan the entire trip, right?
He's the one. Good.
Doug was the only player I ever knew that 3 times in his career at Ohio State, he was knocked out on the field, and the player he hit was knocked out. So 3 times there were 2 guys laying head to head unconscious.
Wow.
Impressive.
Getting little smelling salts and right back in the game, right?
Oh yeah. Crack that ammonia thing.
Let's stay with Ohio State, but let's go to Akron right now and Mike Vrabel.
Okay.
Tim, you were safety at Ohio State. Vrabel was a linebacker, and both of you were drafted. Vrabel wasn't drafted by the Patriots, but you were, and he wasn't in the first round, but you were. But the question is, what do you think about this pick? And I know there's a Ohio State connection, and of course that's always going to color your thinking. But rise above that and tell us what you think about the Vrabel pick, because people here seem to be pretty excited about it. It's about time they're excited about something.
Yeah, and I think they should be. I've met him several times. And we have exchanged Buckeye stories. Mine are a little better than his though, because I have the Woody stories. But I think he's a good coach, and he's had success in the past. Now he hasn't had great success in the past, but in the NFL, so much is dependent upon who you get for players. I don't care. You could be the best coach in the world, and if you don't have good players, you're not going to win in the NFL. Yeah. There's no scheme in the world that lets you win with inferior players. So I think he's proven himself to be very capable, and I know he likes New England, and I think it's a good pick, and I think I just hope they leave him alone. Let him do what he wants to do. Don't try to manage from above. Well, and we'll see if that can work out.
You're talking to Robert and Jonathan right now, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, and they, I'm a little concerned. They kept the general manager, and so I think I don't know how much input the GM had. I think given Gerard Mayo's inexperience, I'm thinking he had a lot of input on the outcome of things there. So I'm hoping that that changes a little bit, and that they put it in the hands of the coach. And Vrabel's got enough experience to call the shots, I think, himself.
We got some video queued up right here. There's Mike Vrabel. Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. Is that what we're talking about right here?
that's what we're talking about. Yeah, where's mine? What the hell? What you went there and you didn't get mine?
Buckeye Grove.
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty good.
yeah. I'm very disappointed.
Is yours down the back, or are you?
Mine's closer to the beginning. He's way in the back.
What's the river? What's the river that goes by the stadium?
The Olentangy.
Olentangy.
No, the Olentangy.
Olentangy. I was there once. They weren't playing a game. It was the middle of summer.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. St. John's Arena was right next door.
Yeah. It's cool. You can take boats up and down it. And I once put a boat in way up north of Ohio State and brought it all the way down and got to go past the campus. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Let's play a little bit of the press conference with Mike Vrabel from Monday afternoon.
I want to thank the teams that were willing to meet with me through this process to give me an opportunity to potentially lead their team. But in the end, it was clear to me and to my family and my soul that this was the place that I wanted to be. And I thank Robert and I thank the Kraft family. Excited to get to work, excited to meet the people in this building that have made this place special. Find out what they need, find out how I can help them, how I can help them do their job better, how we can enhance the stuff that we do well, and then find out what the areas of focus are and get to work. I want to galvanize our football team. I want to galvanize this building. I want to galvanize our fans. And the most important thing are the players. There's some of them right here. I want to provide a program that provides their ownership, but also their accountability of each other, and one that they'll be proud to be a part of and that they're going to fight for. You guys are going to ask me questions about culture, which I'll be happy to talk about and discuss. One thing I've realized about culture is that you can find out what your culture looks like when your family, your business, or your team is at its low point.
So here's the question I have. No disrespect to Mike Vrabel, but if he's such a hot commodity, why wasn't he hired last year when he was on the market? Why wasn't he get a coaching position? He got a consultant's position with Cleveland. And now this year, everyone's going, oh, yeah, this guy was really good. We probably should have picked him last year. I'm glad he's available right now. That's my question.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know whether he actually put himself out there, last year to be a coach. I think, wasn't he in his previous contract, wasn't he still getting paid? I think he was, and if he took another job, then they weren't going to have to pay him. But by taking the position that he took, he was still getting his head coaching salary, plus he was getting whatever they were going to give him. So, and that's only, I don't know that for a fact. That's my suspicion, but that would be my guess.
What do you make of Belichick going to North Carolina?
I mean, I'm sure he'll do a great job coaching, but so much is the recruiting end of football, and now the NIL and all. I guess it's like the NFL now, but in the NFL, you don't go recruit. You draft. And now that he's got to convince good players to come to him, and that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of time on the road. And I don't know how happy his 24-year-old wife is going to be being on the road for 3 months a year. So God love him.
Yeah.
If I saw him, I've never asked him before, but I want his autograph now.
Oh,
You have to get in line.
Yeah.
And it's a long one. It goes around the block.
Yeah.
We had Ron Borges on a couple of weeks ago, and he's pretty outspoken in a lot of things, but he said nothing would have happened down there without Brady. I mean, in terms of, they try to parse it up and say, well, it was both of them. One had more influence than the other. And am I right, Lynchy? He did say without Brady, none of that would have happened.
Yeah, well, everyone's got their opinion on that, whether it's one or the other or both or none. But Brady went down to Tampa with an entirely different cast, and he won down there. So I think you got to go with Brady. He was the reason, as Tim's been saying all along. It doesn't matter if you don't look at Vince Lombardi. Went to the Redskins after he left Green Bay. He couldn't win down there in Washington, and so many guys who are great coaches somewhere. That you got to have the players. You got to have the players.
I'll agree with that. I don't know. I think Belichick was a big part of that, though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I think he kind of sculpted Brady into what he was. Had him tutored him for a while, and Brady kind of had a very similar attitude to and he went along with Belichick. I mean, there are a lot of players that would really struggle playing for him.
Yeah.
And Brady, drank the Kool-Aid and then performed. And so, I think you got to share the credit. You absolutely have to share the credit.
Did the Crafts make all the alums feel welcome when you come back to Foxborough?
Yeah, they do actually. They've done when they first took over, there wasn't a whole lot going on, and but they've since come around, and we can go to any home game we want to. If I call them up and wanted to get away game tickets, I don't do it very often, but I've always been able to get them. They have a section set up for alumni players, and you can always bring a guest. And frankly, if you got family in town, they're kind of flexible. I've actually brought more than one guest. I'm probably not supposed to say that, but it's not like they don't save seats they don't give us revenue seats, so it's not it's not costing them anything to let us in. But what they do is they set up chairs in the on the walkway in between the two sides at the closed end of the stadium, along the railings, and they have a table there. They got a couple tubs of beer and hot dogs and stuff to eat, chicken wings, and then we can go into the club if we want to, and schmooze with the people in there. And in order to do that, they ask you to come into the club. At the top of the stairs, when you go up the escalators to go into the clubs, there's always a table at the top of each of those escalators, and there's usually 6 or 8 players sitting there they give us pictures and you sign autographs there for half hour, 45 minutes, and not tough duty. It's kind of nice to be recognized by fans.
Yeah.
And gives you an opportunity to shoot the breeze with a lot of the former players, and so I like the setup, and we're certainly appreciative of it, and would thank the Crafts for doing it.
I'm sorry. I'm switching gears here now, going back to the Notre Dame game. I saw a map of the United States, and every state was filled in blue, and one state was red, and that was Ohio. And this is what it's going to be like on Monday night, that the entire nation is going to be drowning out the Ohio State fans. Can you see that happening?
Nope. No. The Ohio State fans.
It was a sign at the last game in Texas, Ohio versus the world.
The Ohio State fans will outnumber the Notre Dame fans, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Did you ever lose to Michigan when you were playing?
Hey, I agreed to come on this show in good faith.
No, I guess you just answered the question. I didn't know.
Actually, no. I never lost to Michigan. We
Really?
tied them once.
What's that? You tied them once.
Tied them once, yeah.
We tied them once, and the tie cost us the national championship.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one it was, because we did not. We did great against Michigan. We did not fare well in the Rose Bowl. And in our defense, the deck was kind of stacked against us in the Rose Bowl because we were always playing the Pac-10, and all 4 years it was either USC or UCLA. And the rules back then for the Rose Bowl were very strict, and you literally, I think we left December 10th to go to the out, and we had to stay in Pasadena at the Huntington Sheraton Hotel, which was somewhat of a dump, frankly. And we lived there for almost a month, and we had Christmas there. Obviously had New Year's there, and all the while the guys from USC and UCLA, they're having Christmas with their families. They're living at home, and it was when you talk about a home field advantage, they definitely had a home field advantage. So the 1 year that we beat them, that we won the Rose Bowl, we tied Michigan. And because we had that tie, I don't even remember who else was undefeated that year, but they gave it to the team that was undefeated with no tie. And so we were second in the country, which was very disappointing.
Harvard?
It definitely was not Harvard.
Mike, I agreed to co-host the show in good faith.
We couldn't think what school it was. It might have been Harvard. I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been. Sure.
Who do you think would win if Kent State played Harvard?
Oh, come on. MMAC over the Ivy League? You can't be serious.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of feel the same way. I'm just was wondering if Mike was going to try to stick up for his alma mater.
No, we're going to the playoffs next year. They're allowing us the Ivy League to go to the postseason. And watch out. We get 4 guys from the Ivy League that are in the playoffs right now with the 8 teams that are still alive. So
4 out of 8. That's 4 out of let's see. There's 57 guys. I'm going to do that math. And did they graduate?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I graduated. I can tell you that. I do have a diploma sitting around. Who was the manager of our football team? And we'll get at this is really off a tangent. So this guy was the manager of the football team, and he's responsible for getting the tape down for the spacing for the offensive linemen, and he'd have balls lined up for the punt team, the field goal team, the extra point team, kickoff team, and he was meticulous every day. He did it, and one day none of that stuff is out there, nothing. And so one of the assistant special teams coaches comes out, and I'm trying to, kick a couple field goals before I have to go and do passing drills. He goes, "What's wrong with you?" He goes, I'm just discombobulated. I'm discombobulated. I don't know what's going to happen. He says, my roommate, when I came back from class this morning, had his suitcase packed, and he quit school. I don't know what's going to happen to him. He's going to be a flunky. He's going to be nothing the rest of his life. Well, his roommate was a guy named Bill Gates. And the guy who was the manager of the team was Steve Ballmer.
Oh, jeez.
Who owns the LA Clippers, was the CEO of Microsoft. So I always say to him when I see him, I said, Steve, I says, you couldn't have, like, at 1982 or whatever, you couldn't have said, hey, Lynchy, you might want to buy 100 shares of this Microsoft, I got a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
Gave me nothing.
Or win. Yeah. Wow. That's an interesting story. Yeah. You should have gone with him.
Yeah. That's my story, Louie. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't get to go on Channel 5.
Do what?
He didn't get to go on TV.
Right. Oh. I think that's interesting that Mike Vrabel, right out of Akron, Ohio, back with the Patriots. I think he's going to do well.
Think about that whole thing, Mike. Canton, Akron. There's an actual airport, the Akron-Canton Airport. I mean, that's how close these cities were, these towns were. And you're right in that whole football belt. Niles, Harding, Youngstown, go right across the state, all the way, even to Notre Dame, I guess, if you're going to go that far. But that's an outlier. That Ohio State, that's why the NFL Hall of Fame's in Canton, Ohio. It's what Miami of Ohio is the coaches, cradle of all coaches. I mean, that's what you're talking about here, not just a chestnut on a tree with an eye. You're talking about a whole culture in that part of the world.
What about Akron?
Akron can't. No,
the rubber capital of the world.
Yeah,
right. I worked at Firestone Tire and Rubber for a whole summer. Yeah,
did it?
That was a lot of fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to that airport.
Akron Canton.
They had the honor system there. Nobody was working there. The honor system, so you just picked up your keys and you drove the car for the weekend. When you brought it back, there was nobody there. You just dropped it in a bucket. Everyone's looking around saying, "Why don't we just steal these cars? Do something."
I was just back in Canton last week.
Really?
Yeah. Visiting some family. Actually had a funeral we had to go to, but or we didn't have to. We decided to. It was good to get back. We flew into Cleveland, however. A lot more flights into Cleveland than Akron can.
Quite a few more, right? Well, Foxy, you were great. We're really glad.
I'll get one more spot in, Bob, before we go. Get George Gray in.
Right.
So George Gray, if you're looking,
you mentioned Ted Cruz at Harvard. You don't go up Ballmer and whoever else.
Yeah,
we're not mentioning Ted Cruz. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Hey, if you're looking to pick up a new car, go where Lobel and Lynchy go. Go see the big wheel, George Gray at Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. Lobel and I have been customers for years. I was there last Monday, got my brakes fixed, and got differential fluid changed, by the way, whatever that means. I had that changed. And had a great conversation with all the service guys. And so if you want to go and get top-notch service, buy a car there. If you don't buy there, get it serviced there. George Gray's, Lexington Toyota, the big wheel, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. Well, Foxy, you did pretty good. We only pissed you off in one moment when Lobel asked the question. But other than that, you made it all the way down to Marco. And you will not be leaving Marco unless you have pressing engagement, I take it, right?
Yeah, tell our mutual friend Tony I said hello.
I will do that, and I got to go pack the cooler now and head out on the boat.
Yeah, well,
and are you going to? I asked you this before. Are you going to call it the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America when you go out there?
I agree with the Gulf of America, but that's part of my political persuasion. So
yeah.
Well, tell Tony and West Clocks I said hi.
I will do that.
And all my friends at Snooks.
Yeah,
Foxy, thanks a lot. You were great
All
as
right.
always.
my pleasure. Good to talk to you
Thank you
guys.
so much.
All right.
Stay
Make sure you
well.
follow us at unanchoredboston.com. Foxy, thanks.